Live from a studio apartment, now with backdrop. This is Misinformation. Improvements every day. I should have worn a tie, probably. I got this little bad boy. Real backdrop. It's precariously mounted. That's the only thing. In the age of AI, can you imagine? Some people still can't afford AI to buy an actual backdrop. Cool. We're going to do some jokes, get into some news. Sorry for being late. It's Padres season down in San Diego, so the parking's going to be a little bit trickier. I get home from work, I park, and then I do a show, is what happens. So we'll begin. Give me a sec to load. I got to load the jokes into my telly. Okay, good ones tonight, though. Well, a Seattle man was pushed into a train this week by a repeat offender. Yeah. Now, this comes just days after another man was pushed into a subway in New York. Yeah, in fact, this happens so often, you can now just buy a Liberal City Fast Pass. Yeah. Really speeds up the queue. Well, Kit Kat says there was a chocolate bar heist and several tons of candy bars were mysteriously stolen while in transit. Yeah, it turns out it was a liberal judge. Yeah, she said she was just trying to free blacks from behind bars. Her white chocolate got her a little carried away. The white guilt, that is. Well, the government is offering a 30% commission for tipsters on tips that lead to fraud convictions. Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, Ilhan Omar has already netted over $1 million by reporting herself. Yeah. Yeah, she found an infinite money glitch. Pretty useful. She's still making calls. It's incredible. Cool. Let me pull up the chat and news. What do we need here? That's what we need. Okay, cool. God, I love how every time I load it's just on my stupid teleprompter. All right. What's up, chat? Pulling up the TikTok. What up? Let me see if I can get this chat going too. This is still, how would I even do this? Oh, this guy. Okay, let's go. I don't want to do that. Let's try this. Stream. Perfect. Beautiful. Lovely. We got the chat going. Say hi. Took me a second there. All right, what do we got going on tonight? So we got a couple big things. There's fraud. Always a big weekly story. It's popping off now. We got the guy from Feeding Our Future was just let out of jail. We'll talk about that. Still no kings. That's also happening. Still no kings anywhere in sight. So the protests were super effective over the weekend. We'll have an Iran update. Trump saying the war is going very well. It's going beautifully. And we got some crime and some tech news. So we'll get into it. Okay, first up, let's see what's on the Twitter. This is a great place to start, actually. This is a good tweet from Mike Cernovich. Let's see if I can just make this generally a little bit bigger. He says, would you do 1 year in federal prison to make $250 million tax-free? And this is in reference to the Feeding Our Future defendant, Abdul Abubakar Ali. I nailed that one. That was like the final bass bottle of pronunciation. Did I say bass bottle? Boss battle. Failed in the end. Anyways, this was a guy from the Feeding Our Future scandal that was a Somali fraud scandal. 250 million reportedly overall was stolen. This guy I think was responsible for like 1.1 million is what I'm hearing. 40-year-old guy, grown man, right? Created a fake program where he claimed to have served over, I think it was 1.5 million meals, fake meals. He basically could have stolen. This could be the Kit Kat bar thief here. He basically, that's basically Kit Kat's losses right there. So he claims he's feeding all these kids. All of them are fake. Gets tried, convicted, sent to prison, released after just a year. Okay, after just a year, because the judge said that he seemed genuinely remorseful. Here's, I believe we're going to see him walking out of the courthouse, which should infuriate you.
He collected $1.1 million that way. The key takeaway from today's guilty pleas is that these 3 defendants, including one who knows how Feeding Our Future operated on the inside, are expected to be cooperating with the feds in the prosecution of the rest of the 49 defendants. One meal site in Eden.
And that's all fine and good. You're cooperating with the feds, whatever. Doesn't it just anger you to see? It looks like he's smiling, right? I mean, if you're going to walk out of prison and be let out early, at least try to show a little bit of remorse, right? But back to Mike Cernovich's tweet. This kind of perfectly encapsulates everything. Would you do 1 year in federal prison to make $250 million tax-free? This guy here, he lived like a king, okay? Lived like a king for years, presumably. This was kind of during COVID. While everybody's like struggling to pay their rent and stuff. This guy's living like a king with no repercussions at the end of the day, right? What does it matter if you go to jail for a year? Who cares? For $1.1 million is what he stole? That's insane. There's, this was Grok with a little bit more context just of what he was charged with and everything, right? Abdul Ali, Somali American man from St. Paul, Minnesota, who was sentenced on March 30th, 2026 to 1 year and 1 day in federal prison for his role in the massive Feeding Our Future fraud scandal. Ali ran a fake nonprofit called Youth Inventors Lab. It falsely claimed to have served over 1.3 million meals to kids, billing the federal child nutrition program through Feeding Our Future. That was the program that Ilhan Omar herself started, and pocketed roughly $3 million, the program did, so $3 million, in taxpayer funds that were supposed to feed children during the pandemic. He pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud back in 2022 as part of the broader $250+ million scheme. The light sentence was due to his early cooperation with prosecutors. He was already a grown adult, etc., etc. There was another guy I was thinking of who is not this guy. There's so many defendants. Who actually, that's what I was asking Grok about. There was another guy who used some of the fraud money that he got from the program to pay his way through college so he could get a degree. And then, but the best part is he didn't even take the college classes. He used some of the money to pay for this program, this online website called like Take Your Classes For You. It's literally called that. And they would just submit all of his papers for him. So he's just investing in his own future, feeding his own future, as they all were, you know? And all you have to do is basically, act like you're genuinely remorseful, sign a deal with the prosecutors, and now you're out. Pretty easy. This is the judge, reportedly. I think this is Libs of TikTok reporting this. We'll check it out. Yep, Libs of TikTok says, meet Nancy Brazel, the U.S. District Judge who sentenced Feeding Our Future fraudster Abdul Ali to only 1 year in prison because he showed genuine remorse for his crimes. I could do that. I know I could get away with some fraud if I wanted to. Steals millions, gets caught, says sorry, only gets 1 year in prison. The quote-unquote justice system. Oh, where's my friggin'... Hold up, my Twitter broke. Restart. We got to go back a little bit. This is the judge here from Libs of TikTok. It says, meet Nancy Brazel, the U.S. district judge who sentenced Feeding Our Future fraudster Abdul Ali to only 1 year in prison because he showed genuine remorse for his crimes. Steals millions, gets caught, says sorry, only gets 1 year in prison. The justice system. Now, I gotta say, firstly, I would. Okay. But that out of the way, not a good look. I mean, I feel like this is happening over and over again, where it's just, to be honest, this like white guilt, or people feel like they have to, you know, these liberal judges have to step out of their way to free people, give people a slap on the wrist because they're, you know, what they would consider people of color, and they are suffering from systemic injustices that they feel the need to correct, right? It's what the initial joke was about with the Kit Kat bars and freeing blacks from behind bars. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. It needs to be justice enforced the same way for everyone, not, oh, well, we're going to have compassion for one group and not the other, right? Then connected to the fraud stuff, a couple other stories. This is some good news, at least in the fraud developments. You have Scott Bessent was saying today that he's going to be launching a new program on Monday that will reward tipsters with up to 30% of the fines imposed on criminals who are trying to bleed U.S. taxpayers dry. So this is a good idea. Great idea, actually. It's a way for essentially any citizen or citizen journalist to become a low-key bounty hunter. And basically, if you're able to provide a tip that leads to someone's arrest who's committing fraud, now you can collect 30% commission on that fraud, which is a pretty sweet deal. People are saying Nick Shirley is going to be rich. This is actually Nick Shirley. He's, of course, in California still. He's doing some good work out there looking into the hospice fraud. You have Eric Doherty on Twitter saying, holy crap, a Los Angeles hospice fraudster has now shut down their fake business and fled the building after being exposed by Nick Shirley. And this is exactly what it sounds like. He confronts these businesses. He confronts this one here. They're unable to explain what their business is, didn't want to talk to him, and then just drove away in their Maybach. We'll take a listen.
Okay, what was your name?
My name's Nick, but I want to open up a hospice.
I understand, but we don't take care of that.
Can I get some information?
Do you want a number?
Yeah, or give me a flyer or something.
Literally nothing. Like nothing, and they're behind a gate.
And this is the hospice consultant.
Yes. No, hospice.
Erp.
Alright, so they say they're open right now. They won't let us into the lobby. This is no way to conduct business. We are two entrepreneurs trying to open up our own hospice.
Soaked to the bone right now.
We were denied service by the potential fraudsters, and as we were leaving, one of the fraudsters started to leave from the back in a $200,000 Maybach.
And we have a Mercedes-Benz driving out. Where can we open a hospice at? We'd like to open up a hospice. Get a Maybach just like you. So is this how I can get a Maybach by opening up my own hospice?
Now, after seeing all the wealth that
What is the point of them recording him back? I don't understand that. They're clearly fraudsters, right? And the crazy thing is, this guy driving away in the Maybach apparently can get sentenced to do 1 year in prison and write off everything. Oopsie, I get a do-over. Right? As long as you end up, luckily enough, before a white liberal female judge or a white liberal male judge who's going to give you a slap on the wrist, right? This is in LA, which has a ton of those, so there's good odds that this will not be prosecuted. So, but Nick Shirley doing some good work. He's out there. I love still, you know, I'll mention it every time, just the fact that all it took was for somebody to walk places, to just go knock on some doors and be like, hey, what's going on here? And then you found all the fraud. Makes you wonder what the reporters were actually doing this whole time, right? Crime news. So I just read a story last week. There was some guy in New York who got pushed onto subway tracks over there. this is like I don't like that this is a trend. I don't, but anytime I'm in front of a subway or a train now, I just brace myself and put one leg out, right? Because I'm not getting pushed into a train, right? But this happened again in Seattle. So last week it was a story about someone who died. He was an elderly man. He got thrown onto the tracks, had severe brain injury, died. This is one in Seattle. I guess this guy tried to push the man in front of a Seattle train. I actually have some video of it here, or some pictures. This is, again, libs of TikTok reporting.
Prosecutors say the victim was waiting for the light rail when Eliseo Melendez walked up behind him and then tried to push him in front of the train as it was coming into the station. These are still photos of the incident.
See, you need a better base. He was too outstretched. And this guy has probably heard some news. He knew it was coming. He's like me at that train station. He was like, nope.
Melendez has a history of mental illness and spent almost a year at Western State.
They always do, don't they? They always do have an... Do you think that this has anything to do with the fact that we basically live in an open-air asylum now? I mean, I was literally just standing in downtown San Diego. That's where I live. Getting ready to repark my car, and there's just like a homeless guy. No problem with being homeless, but he's screaming to himself. He's cursing at people. He's using racial epithets, calling young girls that are walking by whores, all this stuff, right? Because he's schizophrenic. That, or he's just on so many drugs that it is completely jacked up his brain, right? And that's how we live, right? Because, again, we live in a society of suicidal empathy where at some point people decided, no, we can't put these people in asylums. We need to let them be more free, right? At least that's what they were saying. The reality is asylums are kind of expensive to run, and it's cheap to just hand people a handful of antidepressants or methadone, right? And allow them to self-care, self-treat themselves. And then we get to live with them, right next to them, in civil society, right? While they shit on the street next to us. And push us into subway cars, right? That's what this is all about. I mean, this is happening all over the place. And each time it happens, it seems like there's no repercussions. It just gets written off as well as a person who has a history of mental illness. They don't know what they're doing. The judge basically comes in, says that they can't be tried. They get remanded to they finally get sent to an asylum, right? Where rather than serving a prison term, they just evaluate them and eventually decide, okay, well, they've expressed genuine remorse, like the Feeding the Future guy, right? Now it's time to release them back into society, back into the wild. Then they end up shooting someone, right? So it doesn't end until we stop having remorse for people who break the rules, whether they've done too many drugs in their life, whether they're crazy, whatever the situation is. And we just start putting people behind bars or in asylums, away from society. You gotta get tough with it. So it's the crime update. So this guy obviously luckily wasn't pushed into the train all the way. But I think we have a couple more details here. Yeah, we'll go into his background a little bit. I think that's what this is. Oh my gosh. By the way, regular websites after you've used X, so annoying to even look at. Just an ad festival. Okay, court records show that Melendez previously faced a 2019 charge of second-degree assault and domestic violence for allegedly stabbing his sister. This is the Seattle train pusher guy, right? Stabbed his sister. However, that case never went to trial. Defense attorneys raised concerns about Melendez's competency, triggering multiple rounds of court-ordered competency restoration, the maximum allowed under Washington law. Well, thank God they threw the book at him. Ultimately, the court found him not competent to stand trial and not restorable. In February of 2021, the case was dismissed. So that's just, 2 years later? And Melendez was ordered into civil commitment at Western State Hospital. Prosecutors at the time had no legal path forward once he was deemed permanently incompetent. He remained committed until January of 2022, when the Department of Social and Health Services determined he had improved sufficiently to be released to a less restrictive setting. That That'd be pushing people into subway cars. The wild streets of Seattle, as they call it. Prosecutors in the current case emphasize that the alleged attack demonstrated a clear threat to the public, given the crowded, unpredictable nature. Yeah, duh. For now, he remains behind bars as the case moves forward. Maybe. We'll see. But theoretically, he could just be remanded through the same program again, where he just gets turned down on the streets eventually. Right? What else we got? No Kings protests went down. This, I think we have some video footage of it here. These were the No Kings protests, some of the crazier ones. There were, to be fair, some milder protests. In general, I do have to say, I know this is pictures of people in LA, like, rioting and being all crazy. In general, I didn't really hear too much about the No Kings protests at all. Did you guys? Did anyone? I didn't really. It seems like this is the third one. The first one was kind of okay. The second one seemed like it petered a little bit, and I didn't really hear anything about the third one. Which I think there's two things going on. Number one, Trump is super popular right now. He's been doing his part to eliminate kings. By the way, he's got Maduro and he's got Khomeini so far. It's 2 kings eliminated. Not bad. And meanwhile, you have the protests, which I'm not sure that anyone really knows what the point is other than twisted Democrats, since Trump isn't the king. The ironic thing to me is they're holding protests to protest having a king, but the entire Democrat platform is basically calling for a king. Like, they want censorship. They want to prosecute their political opponents, right? They don't believe in the supreme authority of the president, but they do believe in the supreme authority of the judiciary, right? They just want a judge to tell them what to do. They don't want the president to make decisions. They want a judge to be the final voice in saying things, right? Preferably one of their white liberal judges who believes the same things that they do. And then they're in line with that king, right? They don't want voter ID. They want to dilute the actual voting public. Sounds like exactly the thing that an authoritarian or a king might do if he were in power, right? That's the Democrat Party. And yet they don't want a king. They just don't like Trump. So in any case, this was one of the more heated. This Gunther Eagleman. I actually follow this guy on Twitter. He's pretty good. California chaos. No King's leftist mob turns violent in LA, throwing cement blocks, rocks, and bottles at cops near the detention center. We'll listen in a little bit. You're gonna need to do a leg day there. Don't skip leg day. Never skip leg day. Never skip leg day. That was a rough one. That was them. There were videos of this circulating and trying to like break down a fence and they're unable to. I think they eventually get it open. They just stand there doing nothing. There was this lady who was, there are multiple pictures of her went around online. People were calling her Mad Max. Apparently she released like a I feel so bad, people are being so mean to me video, which I do feel. She seems like a sweet lady. But I gotta say, you know, she's saying that people were brutal and they just talked a bunch of crap about her physical appearance. Come on. What'd you think was gonna happen? Like, you went online and did that and people talk shit about you? Yeah, that's what online is. You don't think that happens to me? You don't know what I've been through every time I post a video, okay? And I'm not wearing a friggin' face mask. with all that tattoo stuff going on. So I don't know what she thought was going to happen. Of course, people are going to brutalize you. So it's hard for me to have a lot of sympathy because come on. But in any case, she seems like a sweet lady. I hope she's okay. Should have thought about that one a little bit more, though. So Steven Crowder was talking about the donors. There were a couple posts on donors. I'm not sure which one's correct. He has a list of potential donors. Kevin Sorbo has like a son on Twitter who I think runs his account. He lists some potential donors for these No Kings protests. There have to be donors because it doesn't seem organic at all. I don't see any enthusiasm for them. Here's Crowder going into some of these potential donors, though. I thought this was interesting. Let's listen in.
$3 billion in revenue behind the protests. A lot of them are funded by the CCP-linked Neville Roy Singham. We've talked about them before, including the People's Forum in New York, the Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Answer Coalition, and, of course, Code Pink. Remember, we talked about this. Code Pink was founded by Singham's wife, Jody Evans. They were behind that whole Cuba thing where they went and gave a bunch of supplies to the communist government so they could assist them in murdering and silencing more dissidents. Here we have Madeline Pendleton, an activist from that convoy, openly discussing, so don't take my word for it, openly discussing communist Chinese funding and how they would like more of it.
So People's Forum is funded by a Chinese billionaire. You hear that about PSL a lot, and there is a Chinese billionaire who gives PSL some money sometimes. But the Chinese billionaire gives People's Forum a lot of money, and they posted a really funny thing about it back in 2021 that I want to show you. So they said, for months we've been the target of a campaign that alleges our funding comes from dark money. A few years ago, we met Roy Singham, a Marxist comrade who sold his company and donated most of his wealth to nonprofits that focus on political education, culture, and internationalism.
They call it the sixth element. That's super funny.
It seems to bother some folks that we receive funding that furthers our anti-imperialist politics. It seems to bother them even more that our funder is also a staunch anti-imperialist whose work goes back to the Black Panthers and the LRBW in Detroit. The folks who make allegations against us are steeped in the worst kind of racism, believing somehow that our funding robs us of agency and self-determination. Roy follows in the footsteps of his father, Archie, a committed activist for national liberation.
That's too much talking.
We've got this Communist Party.
Now, think about that. That would be dope. I'd be so on board. This is probably someone who, obviously there are no kings, thinks that Donald Trump is a tyrant and doesn't understand that if you are a Uyghur shop owner, meaning a Muslim Chinese, you still have to violate your own religious conscience and sell alcohol and cigarettes in China. Also, if you have the wrong Bible, you'll be imprisoned. They've run over dissidents with tanks, but it's okay. You need to understand this with the communists of the world. It's okay because the ends justify the means.
Yeah, this is, I mean, just on a side note, this is something that I think about a lot. How much people take America for granted. You know, it's mind-boggling. This is why I left the Democrat Party. I used to be a liberal up until about 2015. Then I started seeing them censoring people from speaking on college campuses. I said, there's something seriously sick going on here, right? Because we are a rare thing to exist right now, America. A country that literally everyone wants to move to, right? We have a huge immigration problem because of it, right? Because genuinely people know that we are the land of the free, right? Like you can come here, you can build yourself up from nothing, from the dirt and become whatever you want, right? You can say whatever you want, right? You can own a gun to at least dissuade the government from murdering you, right? There are checks and balances. You know, it's been a 250-year experiment that has made us the only functionally free country in the world to ever exist in the long history of timelines. Go to any other point in time, and you're pretty much living under some form of authoritarian rule, where you can't say what you believe, where you can't arm yourself against the government, where you can't do any of those things, right? And yet you have liberals in this country calling for exactly that for their own safety. So I can see why it's a rare thing. I can see why this weird, odd, free country where you can make your own choices and just live by your own moral decisions and that's it. I can see why that is so rare that it only exists in the blink of an eye and can be gone like that, right? And the thing is, that kind of woke desire for communist control has not gone away, even though Trump's back in office, even though conservatives aren't doing too shabby right now. That will rear its ugly head again, because it always has throughout history, whether it's the liberals or whatever it is. There will always be that. So what Crowder's touching on here is just, you know, these people calling for or sympathizing with a regime that cracks down on protesters, that cracks down on their own people, while they're at the same time turning around and saying they don't want a king, right? Again, the entire Democrat Party, really, although they're saying they don't want a king, that's exactly what they're calling for. They want censorship. They want to dilute the voting public. They want to bring in foreigners to dilute the citizenry, right? They want to be able to prosecute their political opponents based on liberal judges' beliefs. They want to believe in the supreme authority of a judge, a liberal judge, not the president, just a judge, because they're the party of HR, right? So, good stuff from Crowder. He's saying that they're all Chinese Communist Party donors. There's Kevin Sorbo's son listing Warren Buffett as a potential donor, Ford, Rockefeller, Soros. These are the usual names you hear floated around. I haven't looked into this too much, so I don't know how accurate this donor list is. I just know that the protests seem wholly inorganic. It seems like they actually tried to... what's like the opposite of AstroTurf, where you calm down the protests? I think they schedule them in the morning so that no chaos can happen, so that they don't get any bad press. They happen too early for me to even attend. I was looking at stuff too today. Side note, as we get into some tech news, I saw this video come up on the timeline. No Kings protest in, I think it's supposed to be New York, and they're all crawling on all fours and look like Oompa Loompas. Looks real. It's AI. And this circulated for a while. It doesn't look super. I mean, you would look at this one and be like, is this real? But we are reaching a point where it's like, how do you determine what's real and what's not anymore? Because now they're blending in these AI videos with like real news stories. So it used to be, and this was technology is advancing so exponentially right now. Like, I'm like, used to be back in my day, 6 months ago, you could look at an AI video and tell that that was Will Smith, fake Will Smith eating a fake bowl of spaghetti. But now, and it's just like they mix it in with real news. So when you see these eye-catching videos, it gets spread around before you know what's true or not. There was another one that happened with the new Ayatollah in Iran. They had this ceremony where they brought out supposedly like a cardboard Ayatollah. That was an alteration of the initial footage, which was, I guess they did bring out a portrait of him, but then somebody made an AI version with a cardboard cutout, and that circulated all over the place. And in multiple instances, too, I've used Grok to be like, hey, is this AI? And it's kind of 50-50. Sometimes if it's early, it can't tell. So I don't know what we do with that. We're living in weird times. It's kind of a bummer, though. I hate seeing something that I think is interesting and finding out it's not genuine. It's a bad feeling. This one, I see, like this one, I still don't know if this is AI yet or not, right? Let's see if there's any community notes. I think this one's real. This was your typical Democrat voter, they say, the orange-faced guy.
J.D. Vance to be the president,
No,
then?
I would not.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who would you like to be the president?
Kamala Harris right now, but she didn't win, but
Can I point out something that we say no kings and no authoritarianism, but Kamala Harris, no one voted for her.
yes, they did. Half the country voted for her, so let's not go
No,
there.
no one was voted for her to be the nominee.
Yes, they did.
Isn't that what, like, authoritarian?
You're going down the wrong road right now with me. I wouldn't go any further.
What does that mean?
I'm not going to talk to you anymore. That's what it means.
I just think it's ironic that
care if
no
it's
one
ironic or not.
voted.
You should make a veiled threat. An orange-faced veiled threat.
For her to be the nominee. They just selected her like a king gets selected, right?
That's true. They did just throw her in there because their previous puppet ran out of gas and was like, they were like, there's no way to hide that he's just a crazy old man anymore. So they threw him up there. What up, all? How's everyone doing? You guys want some jokes? May do the jokes again. We'll take a break from the news, go into some jokes. Then we'll come back to the news shortly. I got this ready to go? Yeah. Well, a Seattle man was pushed into a train this week by a repeat offender. Yeah. Now, this comes just days after another man was pushed into a subway in New York. In fact, this happens so often, you can now just buy a Liberal City Fast Pass. Yeah. It really speeds up the queue. It's not bad. Well, Kit Kat says that there was a chocolate bar heist and several tons of candy bars were mysteriously stolen while in custody. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out it was a liberal judge. Yeah, she said she was just trying to free blacks from behind bars. Her white chocolate got her carried away there. A little too much white guilt. Well, the government is offering a 30% commission for tipsters on tips that lead to fraud convictions. Yeah. Yeah, Ilhan Omar has already netted over $1 million by reporting herself. Yeah. Yeah. She found an infinite money glitch. It's not bad. Not a bad racket. All right, them's was the jokes. I hope you enjoyed, viewers. I wrote them myself, no AI. Although, actually, I do use an AI teleprompter, which is pretty sweet. This thing follows along in my voice. I like that thing. I try to memorize them, but I write them every day, so they're just it's too much to memorize for the show. What else we got here? We can go into a Trump-Iran war update. That or tech? What should we do? Let's do a little bit of tech news. We'll do that. How about that? This was someone claiming... I should really get... Alexa, turn all lights to 100%. Better. I got some sweet lighting set up in my place. This was a guy claiming, so he says, the New York Times recently published a column about a dairy farmer who deployed robots after immigration authorities arrested one of his workers. The farm now produces 3 times more milk per worker while employees earn more, work shorter hours, and do less grueling work. Yeah. This is going to be happening. It's not just going to be affecting illegal immigrants' jobs. It's going to be pretty much, as far as I'm aware, affecting everyone's work. But I'm not surprised. I haven't looked into the validity of this yet, but let's get the article here. Mr. Heminger was an early adopter, installing his first milking machines in 2007 after the authorities arrested one of his workers. So this was a long time ago. I just decided I wasn't going to risk having both my vegetables and the dairy both be dependent on a labor force whose paperwork could be challenged. That was the main driver. Before he began using the robots, Mr. Heminger's farm produced about 800 pounds of milk per worker. Today, the farm produces 2.5 million pounds of milk per worker per year. Employs half as many people. A dozen workers to manage his herd of more than 2,000 dairy cows. You guys know they have AI cow collars now, too? So, apparently, you can just put a collar around a cow, pay for a subscription service, and it creates a geo-fence for them. So instead of having to build physical fencing, it just vibrates and sometimes shocks them when they step outside the bounds. So it herds the cows for you. So actually, I was thinking about this a little bit. This, as I'm reading it here, it seems like this is more an article about AI sort of enhancing the work that people are able to do, and at the same time reducing the workforce, obviously. But that's kind of, that's sort of the silver lining, at least right now, of how I view AI, is everyone's very doom and gloom about it, But I view it as an adjunct to what I'm doing. So it assists me in being able to create photos, for instance, that I use with my jokes. I could put stuff into teleprompter. So if you're still a hard worker and you're viewing it as, I'm going to use this to supercharge my own performance and to do things faster, it can be really useful. So hopefully, ideal world, that's how it works. We'll see. We all might be in a fluid bath soon, though. That also could happen. There's questions. Is Apple winning the AI race simply by being lazy and waiting until it all played out? That's what someone online is saying. So he says here, eJazz says, Apple really nailed AI by doing fucking nothing. LOL. Says $135 billion in the bank. Stole Google's model for a measly $1 billion, now forcing competitors to plug their models into Surrey if they want access to 2.5 billion Apple users. Patience for laziness paid off massively. That's the revenue generated per dollar of fixed assets. You could see Apple here outperforming Google. I think that's Alphabet. Outperforming Meta. Microsoft, Amazon, they're crushing it, right? And at the same time, there's always been questions about what is going on with Apple's AI, right? And they've been releasing some papers I've seen. They release almost these like academic papers over the years saying that they don't believe in the current large language models. They don't think that that's going to be an AI that ultimately is able to, quote unquote, think on its own, and it hallucinates. There's all sort of problems. So if you've used iPhones or anything like that, you know, though, at the same time, that Surrey's basically been a piece of crap all these years, right? As other AI has been getting better, you ask Surrey to do the simplest thing, and it just can't manage it, right? Can't give you an answer on anything. It can set an alarm. That's pretty much it. And sometimes it messes that up, right? So recently, Apple, after hanging back and saying they didn't think AI was ready, they weren't sure about its future, they just went out and purchased Gemini, right? Which I believe isn't that Google's thing? Purchased Gemini. Now they're putting it in all of their apps, I guess, and you're basically basing Surrey on Gemini artificial intelligence. So they may have come out on top in the AI race simply by standing back, letting everybody else invest in building all these large language models, seeing what worked and what didn't, and then just picking the best one. So there may be a reason for this graph of Apple being completely ahead of everyone. They just might have had the right play on this one. Don't jump in. Here's the same guy saying, I find it fucking hilarious how Apple failing at AI is now the exact reason they're about to win it. Watched everyone else burn $1.4 trillion building models, then picked the winner, Gemini, to use for $1 billion. While everyone fights to grow users, Apple flips a switch and 2.5 billion devices get AI Surrey tomorrow. And do we get AI Surrey? What's up with this? I actually don't know. I'm a huge Apple whore. Hey Surrey, what's going on with Gemini? Are you going to be using that now?
Okay, I found this on the web for what's going on with Gemini. Are you going to be using right now? Check it out.
Useless. Gemini. I'm wondering if the AI is just going to suddenly get like a lot better overnight. I got to look this up, so I'm not looking this up right now. Okay. So apparently AI is going to get a lot better on Apple stuff. Greatest to accidentally ever do it, he says. They lost the model race because they didn't need to win it in the first place. While OpenAI struggles to build an AI device, Apple just dropped 5 powered by the best AI chips for handheld devices. Yeah, I'm totally into the Apple stuff. I get, like, dude, the Apple Watch. I thought, like, even before getting this, I was like, oh, what is, it's like my phone on my wrist, basically. Why would I want that? I'm not dropping $800 for that. Most useful thing in the world. Like, I use it all the time. What's cool about it is I don't get paid by Apple, by the way, so Apple, if you want to pay me. you basically, I have no viewers. You basically, because the screen's so small, you end up talking to it a lot. So I actually do use a lot of the voice commands. For instance, I'll add stuff to a grocery list just as I'm going along. Adding memos is really quick. Checking like timers and stuff like that you can set. Has like a little flashlight on it. So if I'm like doing stuff late at night, I need a little flashlight. You can just turn it on. It's right on your wrist, ready to go. Workouts I use it for. Super, super useful. So I want to get an iPad now. I want to have the whole ecosystem going on up in here. Love it. So hopefully their AI gets better. That's the one thing that's been kind of crappy. Okay. Oh, this was cool. So apparently they're hosting what are called dopamine parties now. This one's in Madrid. It says hundreds of people joined a real dopamine party at one of Madrid's biggest dance clubs, embracing a growing trend of post-morning run, alcohol-free, wellness-focused partying. I love this idea. I love it. This is like, I really wish San Diego had one of these. Maybe I should start one. Because I'm 7 years sober now, for anyone that doesn't know. So, and I still go to bars sometimes, but I mean, they're boring to me, you know. Socializing every once in a while, it's okay. But for the most part, I mean, you just sort of feel out of place. You're like, it's sort of, the alcohol is sort of what makes a bar tolerable, you know. Otherwise, it's just too loud, too crowded, noisy, smelly, annoying place with nothing happening, right? Unless you're high, basically. So this is like kind of, they combine a fitness class with socializing, I think. But it would be great to see this get adopted in larger numbers and have people actually like chilling and hanging out doing something productive. Because I do get high when I work out. As an addict, I can tell you, the high provided from working out is very comparable to many drugs. And I use working out basically like a drug now that I don't do any. Where if I don't work out for a couple days, I get real low. And I have to get high again by lifting weights, running, doing whatever I need to do. And I can really feel it, you know? So this would be great for me. We'll kind of listen to their little thing here.
Because I can combine a healthy life and my training with connecting with people who have similar hobbies as me. To eat healthily and, as they say, to have some real dopamine.
You get the best of both worlds, right? A bit of a party, but it's still during the day, a bit of sports. And yeah, feel better, no?
I love it so much. You know what I wish we also had are the like French like salons from the 17th century or whatever that is. Like where people would just like discuss like politics and all of the news of the day. At the bourgeois would go to the salon to discuss things. Like a coffee shop, except nobody talks to each other at coffee shops. They're not really designed to like socialize. It's sort of designed for you to either get in and get out or to sit with headphones in on your laptop. There's no like, the seats are usually not angled in such a way that it encourages like people to hang out and talk. It's sort of weird, right? So it'd be really cool to just have like shared little seating areas and stuff like that that kind of gets people talking and stuff. Plus this dopamine thing. That'd be sweet. Anyways, huge tangents. So I guess we'll close on an Iran update today. This was Trump with an update today. It's just a funny picture from Mario Nafal. Breaking, Trump, Iran wants to settle. The war is going unbelievably well. It's going unbelievably well. That's such a funny picture right here. Let me tell you, the war is going unbelievably well. Best war in history. People are calling it the greatest Iran war ever to happen in Iran. 2 Chinese container ships just crossed the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, so Trump thinks it's going well. I think he's trying to wrap it up, and people are saying that he's going to go in and try to put boots on the ground in Karg Island or Hormuz. Maybe. But I think he would prefer to avoid that if possible, just based on what he's been saying. But we'll see. He's been doing that deception thing recently, so. I love how forthcoming he is about wanting to take the oil in Iran. Here's President Trump says he wants to seize Iran's oil. To be honest with you, my favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran, he says. Which, you know, it sort of deflates people when they're like, oh, he's just doing, we're doing this as an imperialism to steal their oil. And when the leader just comes out and is like, yeah, I'd love to get the oil, it sort of deflates that argument. Which was sort of a stupid argument in the first place. Like, why would you go to war and not take the spoils? There was a video of Trump as a younger guy. Maybe I'll clip it later. I don't have it here, I don't think. Do I? Oh, here's young Trump talking about wanting to take Iran's oil. He's been consistent, at least. Here, listen in.
I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean
go
we
in,
take their oil?
You go in. You're
How
gonna have
do
a
we
war,
go
Barbara.
in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me.
Yeah?
You're going to have a war, and it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
It's people are joking that he's a time traveler because he's so prescient. I don't know that you can call him a time traveler if he just later in life did what he said he wanted to do, you know? But yeah, I mean, you have him there saying he wants to go in and get the losses back and take the oil. You have him saying that he thinks that Russia would be bluffing, which if there's one thing it did expose, he went in and basically both Russia and China turned out to be paper tigers, right? They didn't really do anything about it. So, yeah.
Have a war by being weak.
Okay.
That's the other big quote. You have a war by being weak, which links back to Trump's whole peace through strength thing, right? You've got to bring something to the negotiating table, right? You can't show up and people know that you're always going to fold. You have to actually back up what you're saying, have something to use as leverage. So he's established now the U.S. as being this military dominant force that's not afraid to use their military, at least under Trump, right? And that gives him a lot of leverage to actually create peace through strength, through bluffs or through threats. You know, that's the flip side of peace, is you have to have violence to enforce it. Little known fact. Here's Trump saying they asked him, they asked him how the negotiations with Iran are going. He says, pretty well, except you never know with Iran because we just end up having to blow them up. This was his audio. Say, it's just a funny quote, we always end up having to blow them up. Here's him, I believe, in a tweet saying that we will conclude our lovely stay if they don't negotiate a peace deal, basically. Shortly, he says, if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. So again, peace through strength, talking tough. I like threatening to blow up Karg Island, just like we're going to blow up the island. And because he's so unpredictable, now you pretty much believe it. Like, he could do stuff like that. I wouldn't mess with him. Another Trump tweet, he is saying that we are dealing now with a new and more reasonable regime. There was another quote from him earlier where people were saying, what are we really doing regime change? What other regime are we getting? And he basically said, this is pretty much the best regime you're going to get. Much better than the previous one, which I feel is actually kind of accurate. You can't predict these things. You're not going to be able to ever go into a country and be like, we're replacing perfectly this regime with a much better one here and these specific people. It's just a choice between the devil you know and the devil you don't. The devil you know and the devil you don't, right? And at some point you got to say, hey, I don't like this current devil. I'm going to blow him up and see if I mix things up a little bit. Hopefully it shakes out better. A lot of the time that's the best you're dealing with. So I think looking at it, we are in a slightly better place. Whether that gets better or not as you play it out over the course of several years, who knows? Nobody knows. You can't predict it. Just one more interesting piece before we end for tonight. There was I love Trump. He's like in the middle of these briefings outside of the plane. He makes sure to bring his ballroom placard. What is that? Easel? His ballroom display, because they're building that big ballroom on the White House. He disclosed this today, which I guess was already made public, he says, because of some lawsuit that was brought against him. But apparently they're building a large military complex underneath the ballroom. Did you guys know that? Here's him talking.
A big complex under the ballroom, which has come out recently because of a stupid lawsuit that was filed. But the military is building a massive complex under the ballroom, and that's under construction, and we're doing very well. So we're ahead of schedule. That's part of it. The ballroom essentially...
Pretty cool. Sounds badass. I grokked some details on the lawsuit. So I guess it's Democrats basically suing Trump, saying that he didn't get the proper authorization to demolish the East Wing, and it's a historic building. He shouldn't be allowed to do that. So but as part of them filing this lawsuit, they had to disclose publicly that the military is building a secret complex beneath the ballroom. Says it's, I guess this is all public knowledge now. The facility, described as ahead of schedule, functions as a secure hub for drones and defense operations, with the ballroom acting as camouflage and incorporating bulletproof glass for enhanced protection. Well, that camouflage is kind of blown now, huh? Sucks. That would have been cool to have the secret drone base. I wonder if they'll build it somewhere else now. But yeah, I'm guessing in the future it probably would be good to have right around the White House like a fast dispatch drone army. That will definitely be a thing. Cool news. Anyways, I think that's it for tonight. So if you like the show, subscribe on YouTube or Rumble. I'm on there. I'm also on like Twitch and Kick. One of those bigger platforms where I could potentially get paid for doing this crap. Subscribe. I'm also not always on TikTok or Facebook. I kind of join every once in a while. But what was I going to say? Oh, shows every night, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time. So if you like the show, show up, watch it live. It really helps to have viewers and chat going and stuff like that. It's more fun for me. And so join live if you can. If you like newsletters, I got the Substack right now. You get a free newsletter every morning that basically goes over my show notes. So if you missed the show, you can catch up real quick just with your email. It comes out at like 4 in the morning, right? So even on the toilet, you can catch up on the day's news. But in any case, that's it for tonight. Hope you have a good start to your week, good rest of your Monday, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.